Ross for tennis today, and I do appreciate everyone else showing up. Today, among other things, I am going to talk about magic items, which you may or may not already know. So, first off, okay, so Jill Mantel's rebooting her computer. First off, as the vast majority of you are familiar with, a lot of magic items are located in the deep roads, okay? And then, of course, they can also be constructed by high-level artificers, Cantino, and, of course, myself. And some of your archetypes, they can also develop magic items to a degree, okay? But it depends on the level. You know, you'll see across the board, you're going to see player crafted levels and then artifact level items, lesser and greater. The greater artifacts are, of course, going to be ancient and will be, for all intents and purposes, relatively permanent. Now, do keep in mind that players can still make them, and the length of time that a magic item remains magic for humans means that doesn't mean a whole lot, okay? Because if an item lasts for 10 years, then that's significant enough that you don't have to worry about it, okay? But there are items that will have lasted 200,000 years, and those will be more of the greater artifact level ones, okay? That's just, basic info, and I'm sure that that's just enough for most of you, most players, and Okay. Okay. I think I'm back. Okay. Sorry about that. My screen froze up, and it's. But I think we're golden now. Okay. Are we good? Wow. Okay. I think we're back in business again. Okay. All right. Yes. And golden, for those of you who do not know, is a term that I use that means good, excellent, in business. Okay. So, as I was saying, there are a variety of levels of magical items, from player made all the way, even player one can make magic items to a degree, and then all the way up to greater artifacts. Mostly, the items that people seek after are either lesser or greater artifacts, because those are the permanent ones. Okay. And for those of you, okay, 1 second here, Zach. For those of you that are familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, the magic items listed in all of those manuals are artifact level, lesser or greater, because they are permanent magical items. And the and you may ask, well, at what point did people stop being able to make artifact level items? Well, the answer is simple. They didn't. But, and items, if done right, if done with all the enchantment, a player-made item can become eventually an artifact, because when you build an item, if it doesn't lose charges, then it grows in power over time. So a simple ring, we're going to mention the Lord of the Rings right now. A simple ring of invisibility after 200,000 years becomes a major artifact. Okay, Zach, what was your question? An enchanter specializes in enchanting magical items. So yes, of course. Um, and oftentimes, an enchanter that wants to be a magical item creator is not goes into artificing. Artificing has two venues. You can go, once you reach standard level, it branches off. Okay? One direction is leads you to Clockworks and steampunk items, and the other direction leads you to crafting magical items. Yes, Zaskia has a RL issue. He has been unwell, but when he is in, yes, he makes a lot of work. There are, Echo is the same way. He's also suffering from some hardcore illness, for lack of a better word. In both of those cases, but also in both of those cases, they do love us and want to be back. It's just they have difficulties. Yes, there are a few. And Archmage DeVere did comment he is an artificer. And yes, Jalil Rose is as well, as is Venli. Although Venli is not, doesn't do the magic stuff so much. She works on the steampunk side of the house. Oh, she's around, Well, she's around more than all of them. So, yes, mostly she's a late night player. But they are all there. Okay, did that answer your question, Jaluk Stillbinder? Okay, excellent. All right. So the items found in the deep roads are already artifact level because they've been around for a long time. The deep roads has been not functional, for lack of a better word, for a couple 100,000 years. So everything found there is going to already be artifact level. Okay? Items that have been crafted since then need to age, like cheese. Now, some things, obviously, that have some things have an incept date because the magic cast into them eventually wears out. And that's across the board. We've talked about the fallen star, current thing that's going on. Why did it fall? Because the magic that kept it up in the air after many hundreds of thousands of years finally wore out. It is still a powerful item. Okay? Even without its the magic that kept it in the air, it's still a pretty powerful item. It can't do everything it could before, but it's still pretty powerful. I mean, Deanon and Dylan Ray encountered it. Deanon touched it. He was knocked into it, and it, even in its defunct state, it erased the mind control that was on him. Okay? And that is without its power. If you get within 5 meters of it, the radiation coming from it interferes with mind control. So when it was originally when it was flying through the sky, it emitted this radiation throughout the deep roads, throughout the old kingdom. That is why, for those of you that are familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, you may have heard that some of that dark elf items disintegrate when they get to the surface world. Well, the reason that is, or not, it's not always the case, but bear with me here. The reason it was set that way in D&D is because it was no longer infused with the radiation that came from the dark sun. Now, before it was a fallen star, it was a dark sun. And the dark sun emitted this magical radiation that protected the people from mind control and emitted this massive amount of magical energy, which infused everything, okay, for a very, very long time. Now, obviously, the first things that the Illithid had to do in order to take over the Underkingdom was to get rid of all those stars, okay, and detonate them, make them so that they would stop their chief ability, because their chief ability is mind control, right? Well, if you got these fallen stars, dark suns, in all the big cities, that's a major drawback to your world domination, isn't it? So that's the first thing they had to do, is go around and blow all those things up. Okay? And they were fairly successful, obviously. More than fairly. Since 90% of the Underkingdom has been destroyed, then they were pretty successful, but they did not succeed in genocide, which was their goal. Because look around you, there's still dark elves, right? Okay. But that gives you a general, some small amount of knowledge. And of course, yes, the fallen suns were built by the Zord-Alfar, the same dark elves, for lack of a better word, that built Mjolnir. So that's a little bit in the past. But that's what we're talking about, is that ancient magic items are more powerful than current because time. But, as we also said, things can run out of magic. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. No? All right. Yes. Jaluk Angus. Jaluk Agrippa. Okay, go ahead. You can ask any questions at all. Okay? Just because I have a topic that we're discussing, that does not at all mean you can't ask questions from any other topic that you wish. When I'm here, that is your opportunity to pick my brain. Because, hey, face it, I'm not here every day. Yes, you're Luke Starbender.
Am I authorized to say the question in voice just to avoid take too much time to write?
You can, but since it's being recorded and people and not, it is generally it's best if you type it out because we do still have deaf people, and yes, I do everything in voice, but people already know that. But yeah, if you want to ask your question in voice, go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna say it in voice and I'm gonna type it out for everyone to be able to read it after. My question is, you said earlier that with with time, an artifact can eventually gain power. Is that correct?
Yes, that is very, very correct. As I was saying, that is what that is how a magic item becomes an artifact. When you build it, it ages, and then as it ages, it gets more and more powerful. If it's not destroyed, or the magic does not fade. Because both of those things are possible. But if it avoids both those fates, then it gets more powerful. And that is kind of RNG because you may not know that the item that you have built is going to become an artifact. All right? You build something and it's cool and it works, but it passes all the RNGs over the course of 1,000 years or whatever it is, and it keeps passing all its RNGs, and then eventually it becomes an artifact. Okay? Does anybody here have the Blackberry Pi spoon? Okay. Yeah, Averial has it. So now Averial has a spoon that she can dig it into anything and it becomes Blackberry Pi. All right? Now, originally, when the mage that built that, I'll answer your question 1 second, Nif. Originally, when the mage that built that, he was just hungry and he really liked Blackberry Pi. He didn't plan on it being an artifact. But it kept passing all its rolls. So now it's like this major artifact. It's a minor artifact, but it's like this major thing. Okay? You can use it to eat stone, gold, anything, flesh, everything. It just digs into whatever it is, and it becomes Blackberry Pi. Okay? And when the guy created it, he didn't know that was going to happen. Yes, no matter what you dig it into, it becomes Blackberry Pi. Okay, back to Nif's question. Yep, that goblet is of similar nature. Okay, doesn't it take an artificer to create the permanency that is required for an item to become an artifact? Yes, it does. Okay. An artificer has a special ability that is, because they're an artificer, it's a class ability that makes it so that they have it's permanency is one word for it. It is the name of a spell. But other casters can learn that spell, okay? But it's max level, so it's not like you're going to get it that easy. But an artificer has that already, okay? It would be considered in Dungeons and Dragons a 9th level spell, permanency, and artificers get that just for being an artificer. But the higher level artificer you are, the more accurate it actually is. Okay? So you basically gain 15% per level. So that's never quite, it's not never 100 unless you go past 5th level, of course, like Zaskia and Cantino and myself. But it's still really good. Okay? Does that answer your question? Okay, Ondine. Okay, the time, yes. Okay, the time that you're talking about, that is accurate. And that actually applies to artificers too. Okay? But in the case of artificers, then it is spell locked. Okay? So, whereas, okay, how does that translate? Okay. That translates in our world. Okay, I told you basically that a magic item goes through, has to be rolled on, it has an RNG ever so often to see if it starts losing power. All right, an artificer gets a plus 25 on their roll every time. Okay, so what that means is it's more likely that an artificer's item is actually going to become an artifact and stay and not lose power. Okay, that's what I just explained. Spell locked is the ability for the magic to stay in the artifact. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. The artifact is completely independent of the caster once it is created. And Ondine, what meant was when we developed the time spans, we developed them on the 5-level format, and now we have a 10-level format. So that's all he was talking about. Okay? Yes, Jill Sigdra. Now, my apologies if I'm not looking at everybody because my screen locked a few minutes ago, and I'm like, I think I'm going to look away. So I'm looking behind me instead of at all you guys. My deepest apologies. So if I do not get your gender correct, it's because I'm not looking at you. Okay, as far as enchanting things go. You can only enchant magic into something that you know. So if you're a necromancer, then there is only one school you can't use. Okay? So if you're an illusionist, there's only one school you can't use. All right. Belzos for your tending. Jaluk Stormcloud. You can catch it all later, I'm sure. No. If you're a specialist, then that means that you are locked out of one. If you are an arcanist, then you are not locked out of any. So, but this was an answer to the question before. You can only enchant with a school that you know. Okay? Otherwise, there are the only limits for magic items is the ones that are inherent. Example, in the GA, we don't do time magic, okay? Because there are too many loopholes that people can come up with time magic. So that's something that you cannot make an item using, okay? There's just, and wish, we don't do time magic, and we don't do wish magic, which alter reality. We don't do time, and we don't do alter reality. Those are two off the top of my head that are not permitted in the GA. Well, the problem with a teleport ring, it isn't that it's not possible, okay? It's just that the magic that is required to build a teleport ring is beyond 5th level, okay? You're beginning with artifact level, okay? Any magical item that grants teleportation is already an artifact. It's not that cannot be done, but it cannot be done by anybody that's that's magister level or lower. Okay? Does that make sense? Generally speaking, what Magister Apprentice of Val just said is true. A teleportation ring more than likely will get you killed. But they do exist. You know? The queen, if you're talking about Valshara's Quixote, she has a teleport rod. The rod that she possesses can teleport. And yes, Ivy as well. It's the scepters you see them carry, that allows them teleportation. And yes, that is correct. Now, teleport crystals with limited teleportation are allowed. Because they teleport from one to another. What Magister Apprentice Eval mentioned earlier about teleporting to the sky, if you have aligned crystals, then you circumvent that defect because it goes from one to the other. Do you understand that? Does that make sense? If an item, there are teleport items that can allow you to teleport to one of those crystals. Those are less dangerous, but teleport items, you basically, in order to craft those, the magics required to do that are already artifact level. That isn't saying that they're not allowed. Okay? Yes, exactly. Archimage Devere, that is exactly correct. Teleportation circles are much more are allowed. Teleportation items, where it gives you random, that's a death sentence, most likely. That's pretty good right there, what Master Prince of All said. As far as successful ones, you can look at ESO, for example. Of course, there's millions of them there, but so it's not a good example, but it still is. They have standing stones that you teleport. You enter one, and you can teleport to another standing stone somewhere else. That's the teleportation circles that Master Princess Devere was referring to. Does that make sense? Okay. As far as plane travel goes, plane travel is not teleport. It is plane shift. Very high level spell. You're high enough, Jalil Ninetails, to cast that. But plane shift, which is opening a portal to another plane of existence, that is the same kind of magic as teleport, but whereas teleport transports you somewhere else in the prime material, the plane shift opens a door to another plane of existence. A gate, exactly. But again, those are far more successful if they are static items that have a beginning and an end. Okay? Static items that have a beginning and an end have a much greater chance of success. You can go from point A to point B because the corridor in between those two have already been firmly established. There is not a RNG that will drop you over the ocean 1,000 miles and you burn up on impact before you hit the water. Whereas if any teleport, plane travel, etc., that does not have an endpoint that's already established, has the chance of that happening. Could very well be the truth. Master Princess of All. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Yes, that includes arms and armor. Okay. As far as times go, okay, as far as how long things last, your archetypes have the farthest range. I believe it's 1,000 years, which is of course way beyond what any human could survive, but it is not the entire lifespan of an elf or a dragon. But it is way beyond anything a human would possess. So your archetypes could potentially be about 1,000 years. Ondine has a full list, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it is. Off the top of my head, it's been a year since that question's been asked. Okay, there we go. There it is. And that's for artifacts, that's for wards. Yes, that's the ward one. I think you are right. I think we Enchanter lasted longer. I think we went up. Yeah. If somebody has that one, there we go. Yep. So there's the ward one, and then there's the enchant one. And yes, of course, all that needs to be altered to the new. And do remember that if you have permanence spell, that alters it. Yes, the enchanting. If you just straight up enchant an item, that time span is correct, and it's a little bit more permanent if you're making a magic item. Yes. Yeah, an Archdruid can still make magic items. And again, let me go back to the Deep Roads thing here. Anything you find in the Deep Roads is either completely empty of magic because it ran out, or is already artifact level. Okay? Does that make sense? So let's say Bag of Holding. Now, that's the most popular magic item ever. But it is extremely difficult to make. Okay? And yes, if Cantino gave it to you, it's artifact level. You know, Bag of Holding is artifact level. If it's a successful artifact, because most of the time Bag of Holding is it's a black hole that you lose everything you put into. But if it is successful, then it is an artifact. Okay? A bag of holding that is closed can go through a portal. If it is open, the bag of holding will be destroyed, and so will the portal. Because the bag of holding is a portal. Bag of holding basically is you open a space and time, space out of time. Okay, it's a portable hole that has dimensions, and if you walk through a portal with it open, it's going to destroy everything. Now, a bag of holding that has a small opening, there are reasons for that. So the only things you can put in there are things that can fit through that hole. Yes, portable hole will destroy a bag of holding. Absolutely. Yeah, that would definitely stop a portal, but it'll also destroy your bag of holding, which is an artifact, so hard to get. So that would really have to be worth it. That's called a bag of miniature items. Bag of miniature items is one of my creations in Dungeons and Dragons over 40 years ago. And bag of miniature items is a bag of holding, but everything that goes into it turns into a marble. Okay? So you can hold massive amounts of stuff. Okay? And it also acts like a vacuum cleaner. Now, people that go into it, the bag of miniature items can take people also, which a bag of holding cannot. People that go into a bag of miniature items go into stasis, and they become marble-sized also. But they have to be willing. You can't. It's not a weapon. You can't take people that are not willing to go. But yes, there's only been one bag of miniature items in the GA ever, and that couple that owned that are no longer in SL. Oh yes, it is an awesome item. Yes, exactly. Someone who is I'm going to use a good example. Someone who has cancer and is about to die, and there's no cure, put him in a bag of miniature items until you can find a cure for him. Bam. Does that help you? Yeah, you can keep salt. I don't know why, but yeah. Okay, cursed items. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, cursed items is another RNG. Okay, you can of course do that on purpose, but there are a lot of items that become cursed. There is an RNG that makes it possible that that can happen. Like it has and you call it curse. Some others might call it a side effect. Example, Dylan Ray, are you in here? All right. She has a shield that it is a nice, very nice shield, but if you use it for more than an hour, it will put you in a comatose sleep. Okay? Now that was a side effect when the item was created. It wasn't meant to be a curse. It wasn't meant to be that way. It's a side effect. But you could look at it as a curse. Okay? You could easily look at it like that. But it wasn't created with that in mind. Does that make sense? And that's a good idea. So, yeah, but there are curses that are laid out on purpose. Okay? Good example. Most mages trap their spellbooks. Okay? And depending on how it's done and how it's worded, then there might not even be a saving throw, because it's example, all of my spellbooks and all of my magic items that I just leave out, they all have sepia snake sigil on them, which is perfectly innocent, all right, whatsoever, unless you touch it. And then you're trapped in amber for eternity. Okay? It's only if you trigger the sigil. But if you trigger it, bam, you are preserved. You can look at it all you want, but you just can't touch it. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions about, okay, yes, Jaluk Agrippa. That's fine. Okay, weapons made out of rhodium. If you have a good enough blacksmith to be crafting out of rhodium, then it is going to be advantageous. Okay? It is not Rhodium, one of the nice things about Rhodium, it does not interfere with your magic. I mean, even Orichalcum can be carried by a character. All right. The nice thing about Rhodium is it can be enchanted where Orichalcum cannot. Okay. Baldos for your attendance, Jillil Poke. Does that answer your question, Angus? Okay, second problem. Second question. No, it will not interfere with your magic. Means now casting through it might be a problem. You probably don't want to try to make a magic wand out of Rhodium. That could be bad. Okay? That might not even, you'd have a 50% chance of it doing anything. But yeah, you could make a sword out of it with no problem. Okay? And if you have, and it could even be enchanted. If you have a high enough blacksmith to actually work that rhodium, then you could do it. Elementium is excellent for casting materials, like a wand. Yes. Yes, you can block magic with it if it's designed for that. Same with Orichalcum. That's why those items are usually used in armor or shields. But there's nothing stopping you from making weapons out of them. But rhodium and Orichalcum generally are used for armor or shields because they have the ability to block magic. Potentially. Did that answer your questions? Most welcome. Okay, any other questions about anything we've discussed or anything in general? I'm opening the floor to questions. Am I done talking? No. But I don't want to keep you forever. So, okay, ask away. First, Jalil Molly. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Thank you, Jalil Koolhoven. No, anyone can be an artificer. You do not have to be a caster. But halfway down the road, when it splits, and if you want to go the magical route, because there are two routes once it splits. And if you want to go the magical route, you need to be a caster. And no, you do not have to be a mage. It can be any type of caster. But anyone can be an artificer at all. But the magic portion of it, you have to be able to cast magic to do. Someone just asked about Venli earlier. Now you know whose alt that is. No, but maybe this person didn't know that. Yes, verbal component is mandatory for all spells, unless you have become specialized. Okay. This is an important thing. There is a way for cantrips are not necessarily verbal. Okay? Cantrips are pre-spells. Okay? Now when you're 0 level, a cantrip still requires all 3 components. But once you hit first level, cantrips no longer require all 3. Okay? Yes, that's right. Junie, Trinity is Venli. Okay. So but beyond that, if you master a single spell, okay, there's a spell that you use all the time and you master it, okay, that can become a mastered spell. All right. And if it is a mastered spell, then you can drop one of the 3 components. Because you do it all the time. Okay, you guys were talking about cantrips earlier. You know, when the magician is down there at tea and he's making his coffee, his chocolate coffee instead of tea, that's a cantrip. Okay? He doesn't need to do all the other things. Okay? It's a cantrip. But as far as master spells go, Nif just hit on one. If you do the same spell all the time, okay? Yeah, cantrips are baby magic. If you do the same spell all the time, you can master it. And if you have mastered that spell, then you can drop one of the 3 components, either verbal, semantic, or material. That's right. All spells have all 3 components. Okay? But if you master a spell, then you can drop one of those. And cantrips, those are baby spells, as we've discussed already. Once you hit first level, then they don't require all 3. They require 2 of the 3. And then if you continue to work on that, you can master that cantrip, and it only requires 1 of the 3. Okay? Does that make sense? number of spells that you can master is the spell that you always cast. There's only one. Okay? It's not all your spells. You can't be mastered everything. Okay? You get one mastered spell. Balados attendants, Jalil Sharpclaws, Vendas for now. If Fireball is the spell that you always use, and you have, then eventually that can be your mastered spell. Yes, it can be teleported. It doesn't matter. If it's a spell that you always use, eventually that can be your master spell. But do remember, usually it is a lower level because you have been practicing that spell forever. Okay? A higher level spell, that means that you have never mastered any other spells, which is possible. And then you decide, okay, now I'm going to master this spell. Okay? So, and you won't have mastered it. Let's say teleport. You won't have mastered that until you hit 5th level. Okay? No one is required to master any spells. Okay? It's not the same thing as being good at what you do. Okay? Mastering a spell is a choice. Is like, I'm looking through my stuff and I love this spell and I do it all the time, every day, all the time. And I eventually got super good at it. It is a choice, not something that you have to have. Okay. Okay. So, little Molly. Now, there are ways around spellcast, ways around using words for casting. Okay, it's still a verbal component. Okay, but it is much more difficult. But it is definitely within possibility. You have to be able to make the verbal components, even if you use another way to do it. Okay. And that's why most animals cannot cast. Okay. Because they don't have the hyoid bone that gives them speech capability. But does not mean it cannot be adapted to. Okay? There are ways around it. Like crows, all the corvid family. Okay? Now they don't necessarily talk, okay? But they can mimic sounds. All right? And when they mimic sounds, then if they learn it and do it and blah, blah, blah. They can learn how to spellcast that way. Yes, Kenku are the same way. Does that make sense? So if you have the ability to mimic, you can do it. Yes, verbal component is still coming. It still comes out of your mouth. However, bards, yeah, it's sound based, okay, but like I said, it can be mimicking, all right. You can mimic because singing is speech, just like she just said. If you can sing, then that you can do it, okay? Because even though it's not words, like a lot of spell words don't even sound like words, okay? We're talking in English right here. But let's say I say, Asrak, Hitara, Bente. Now that's spellcrafting, okay? But though that, no one can just say, okay, I know what you just said. No, chances are no. And bards use that to their advantage. Magic is another language. Okay? It's not English, it's not common, it's not. You know, it is its own language. So if you can mimic, and singing is a good example, then you can do it. Now, if you're mute, then that's a whole nother ballgame. Then you might want to try Bard. If you still want to do magic. Okay? Yes. I'm not looking at you, but I now know who you are. And yes, there are several aquatic species that are still casters. Okay? That's right. And skeletal mages are the same way as what Archmage Devere discussed. Yes. And there's a term for that, but I noticed that she has octopus arms too. I've never seen that. But there is an actual, what you were referring to as Octomer, is actually a racial type. Okay? But they generally have hominid arms. And then their legs are was. Okay? And I told Trinity the name of that the other day, and I'm going to have to remember. I might actually have to even pull it up because I know it, but it's escaping right now. Yep, that's right. That's it. Cecilia. There it is, right there. You. That is correct. Cecilia is the octomur, but generally speaking, they have human arms. You know. Now, Ursula from Little Mermaid is a Cecilia. Hey, if you want tentacle arms, more power to you. I'm just saying that generally Cecilia do have regular arms. But hey, I have no problems if that's where you want to roll. I'm good with it. Okay? Okay. Yes. Okay. Joe Moon Snow. Okay. As far as elementalist, okay? An elementalist, they are manipulating the elements, but they still do it in the same way any other mage does. Okay? They are drawing from the elemental planes, but they do it through the weave, as you were referring to. Okay? Does that answer your question? I mean, they are, yes, drawing from the elemental planes. Okay? But they're doing it just like any other mage. Okay, Jalil Kabarta. I know I'm taking forever. I will only keep you guys for a few more minutes. 4 more, and then I will roll out. Okay, let me get those 2 questions. Angus and then Sigdra. Every single elf has sending, and it is magic. It can't cross planes, but it can reach other sims, for lack of a better word, other realms. Okay, so you can be sitting here in the library, and someone over in Greenhaven or Rue or Silver Marches or somewhere in one of the other any place else, and you can still chat back and forth 7 words. Okay? It does not take any energy or mana. It is just an automatic ability you have. It is part of being an elf. Okay? Feykin can receive, but they cannot send. Any elf or fey that they at all, they don't have to know them. They're always going to hear it, but they don't have to, but they can ignore it, you know? Oh, okay, of course. Jaluk Crew, go ahead. As far as sending goes, you can think acorns, but you can't actually give them physical acorns. Yes, it's sort of like MindLink, but it's a little bit more universal. Okay, and as far as doing sendings with people you've never met, you kind of have to know they exist. Okay, you can't just send out. It's not like a telegram or a wave. It has to have a place. As far as MindLink goes, if a mage has established MindLink with you, then you can answer. That's right. It's basically, MindLink is like they handed you a telephone, all right? And that means you can talk back and forth on it, or a walkie-talkie. Sending is similar, okay? Sending is similar. It's like both people have a 7-word walkie-talkie. Okay? You go, they have it from birth. Elves do not have to learn sending. They have it from birth. So, babies and their moms send back and forth to each other constantly. Pre-birth, in fact. That's why a pregnant elf knows as soon as her baby can think. She already knows because he can say, he or she goes, "Mama." That was funny. That was good. With gnomes, everything is one word. That's good. Yeah, your synapses would be just boom. Yes. Now hey, some of the way I talk, is like that, but not near as bad as a gnome. Like Kama always, when I say "I," that's technically two words, but I don't say it that way. A gnomish wolf, and oh my gosh, that would be hilarious. Gnomes in general, Hey, one of my favorite games is gnome ball. Punt. Game of gnomes. Yep. But I do love gnomes. Gnomes are awesome. Yep, gnome flinger. You got it. You know it. But gnomes are cool. I remember way back in the day, when before dark elves were a authorized race, but I was still a dark elf. My brother played Svirfneblin, and obviously that was before deep gnomes were an authorized race too. And it was amusing. Svirfneblin, but yes, basically Smurfs. Yep, that's right. Underdark gnomes. Svirfneblin, unlike regular gnomes, they actually have magic because of the Dark Suns. The Dark Suns inundated everything in the Old Kingdom with magic. So Svirfneblin have magic. Yeah. Pele has a Svirfneblin? I didn't remember that. Okay. Specialization perks. Yes, every single school has a spell that can only be cast by that school. Example, illusion magic. Okay? Illusionists have all kinds of cool spells, right? Generally speaking. But you have to be a specialist illusionist to cast shadow magic. Okay? Demi-shadow magic can be acquired by most other mages, but shadow magic can only be cast by an illusionist. And if you don't know what shadow magic is basically creating a copy of yourself or something around you. Okay. All right. Let me finish that one, then I'll answer Magister Princess of All's question. The perk of being an elementalist an elementalist is a resistance to that type of element. Okay? So you can become eventually, if you're a fire elementalist, you can eventually become immune to fire. Okay? You get resistance as you go up. That is the perk of an elementalist. Yes, there is a hybrid rogue class that uses demi-shadow magic. Okay, Master Princess of All, what was your question? Yes, elementalists have to have a single element if they are to be immune to. They're not going to be immune to all of them. Okay, the schools of magic that a specialist is locked out of. Yes, that is a very important question, especially since most of the time, when you look it up, you're going to get the wrong answer, because in okay, just a second here. There we go. Okay. See, most of the time when you look up, if you're like pull it up on your computer, you're going to see that we'll always see that necromancy and illusion are opposite, but they're not. Okay? And so this is a very, very good question that you've asked, because it is not the case. Necromancy and illusion are not opposing. Okay? So that is a pretty good question. All right. One second here. I do have it written out, but I'm was trying to be faster. Don't think that this is being faster. My apologies. You can go. There we go. That is accurate. So you have that on a note card. but I couldn't find it. I don't remember what I named it. But that Chilla Moonsnow has it correctly. You know, and when you look it up online, that's not what you're going to see. Okay? Online, you're going to see that necromancy versus illusion, and that is not correct. Okay? This is the correct one that she has. I just got it. I haven't been able to look at it yet, but that looks like it would be hilarious. So you will see that's a very good wheel right there. Okay, you can put it in wheel format if it helps you to understand it. Okay. Okay, Baldos, for your attendance. I know I've kept everyone here way past the time that I planned on. Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Abjuration and evocation can both pull off the same thing. Okay. So that is why they are locked out from each other. Because if you are you can do the same thing with the opposing school. No, abjurists can still pull something out, but they can't do it from nothing. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, they can still pull it off. It's just they have to have something in order to do it with. Those four. That is very, very well done. You know, I had, like I said, I wrote that a long time ago. An elementalist is an evoker. Okay? They, like Zeb just said, it's evoker and summoning. Okay? An elementalist is an evoker. They have evocation and they do summoning. Okay? Correct. That is correct, Chilla Moonsnow. Elementalists, they don't ward against non-elementalist things, basically. They have a different kind of protection. They create fire out of nothing, yes. So does all of that make sense? That would be a huge list, Chilla Moonsnow. But as far as, but I can give you the one per the ones that are exactly specific. Yes, I can do that. Okay. So it's already been mentioned that the Cloak of Darkness is Necromancer. Okay. And Elemental Protection is Elementalist. Okay. Those. And Abjurist, it has a spell shield. And Evoker has a ball of light. Okay. And it's not the light spell. It's actually a ball of light. You can use it as a weapon or a light source. Okay. It's like a laser ball. Okay. For lack of a better word. A divinationist has their special once they become a specialist is basically asking a question of the universe. Okay. And the name of that one is Inquire. Okay. Summoner, they get an advanced familiar already. Okay. Transmuter, they can alter a regular metal into a special metal as their natural. A regular material into a special material. They only, okay? And they're only barred from the top 3. So it's pretty nice to be a transmutation specialist. They're only barred from the top 3. Unfortunately, Mithril is one of the top 3. The top 3 are Adamantium, the black, Mithril, the white, Orichalcum, the red. So they can't do those 3. Okay? Okay. Illusionist is mirror image, a special version of mirror image that actually talks. And Enchanter is all of their enchantment spells last 50% longer than cast by anybody else. Did I cover all of them? I think. Elementalist could be a shield mage. Yes. they could make a pretty nice shield mage. But remember, abjurist is typically the ones who make shields, but they could pull it off. Divination was inquire. Ethereal shift is I guess you'd have to know that spell, but anybody could possibly do that. It's not a normal thing that people would use. The spell shield that an abjurer uses, yes, it's shield against anything, but particularly against magic. But an abjurer shield is basically an invisible force field that they carry on their left side, just like a regular shield, but weightless. Okay? Somebody asked that question. I had to scroll back and see it. Did I miss any other questions? Yeah. Okay. All right. Last round. If you have another elf question, this is your time. This is the last round of questions, and then I'm shutting it down. Okay. Yes, that is correct about what else they do. And, okay, are any of you familiar with the practices of some of the Native Americans, Apaches, Blackfoot, just to name a few, that before you go out and hunt your prey, you ask for permission from the, okay? They're not standing in front of you, but you're asking you're basically, you might want to say, asking the gods of the animals, the patron god of the buffalo, you could say that if you want to look at it that way. Yeah, exactly. So wood elves have a deal with the animal kingdom, okay, that they can hunt them, okay? It's not against the green or against nature if they hunt animals. And all wood elves have that. It's part and parcel of being a wood elf. Okay? Does that answer your question? Okay. As far as the star goes, the star is guarded, but it is moved. Okay? It has been moved, and their current hold on it is busted, so they will have to reestablish all of that. Okay, does that answer your question, Archmage Devere? And your question, Angus? Yes, like the animal spirit, the spirit of nature. They have a deal with the spirit of nature that goes with it. You have broken the hold that the Illithid and the Metallica have on it. They're gonna have to do their role play and fix them and get all that done all over again. So this is an opportunity that you have to prevent them from doing that, if you wish. You don't have to go look for it because it's not that far away. You know? It's at the top of a descending tunnel. We know that part. I'll have to look at this YouTube video later. Last time I clicked on something like that. Yes. Okay. Okay. All right, I'm going ahead and closing it. And if you have any additional questions, I'm going to look at this gnome wolfen thing. I'm sure it'll crack me up. Oh, it's loud. That's funny. Okay, so that is fairly amusing. And might be a little bit more like gnomish illithids. Like an illithid has taken over some gnomes. Yep, I think that's what it looks like. Yep. I don't know what that's from. Obviously, Star Trek. Okay. New episode that I haven't seen yet, I guess. But it definitely looks like maybe the Illithid have attacked the gnome population. Okay. Bellados, for your attendance. If there are any other questions, you can go through pretty much any of the of your guild leads, and that'll eventually get through to me, or any member of the conclave. Yep, Nomathids. That's what those were. Nomathids. It has a new nomenclature. It is Nomathid. Balados and Vindaus for now.